Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever had to deal with a safety manual, you know how it is. They can be dry, mandatory.
Just a box-checking exercise most of the time.
Exactly, a box-checking exercise. So today we are tearing past that, past simple compliance. We're diving into how this huge organization, the Electro Mechanical Project Group, EMPG, takes its commitment to EHS.
Safety, health, and environment.
Right, and how they formalize it into a measurable and incentivized cultural system.
Well, we're not just looking at some glossy mission statement on a wall. We have their operational blueprint.
The actual document.
The actual document. It's called the Employee Engagement Standard, doc number EHMP04. It was just issued October 9th, 2024. And this thing is really a strategic tool. It's designed to shift safety from just being one department's job to being part of the entire organization's culture.
Okay, so let's unpack this then before we get into all the, the nuts and bolts. What is the core goal of engagement here? I mean, why spend all these resources just to make sure employees feel heard on a construction site?
It's purely, and I think brilliantly, pragmatic. The standard, it starts by defining what an engaged employee even is.
Okay.
So someone committed, motivated, putting in their best effort. But the real driver, the insight this entire thing is built on, is the connection they make right at the start.
And what's that?
They state it clearly. Highly engaged employees are significantly less likely to have an accident or get injured on the job. Way less likely than someone who's just, clocking in and out.
So the purpose is totally explicit. This standard is about creating a structured approach for EHS, because high engagement is basically a direct proxy for safety, for efficiency, and I guess for higher quality work in the end.
Exactly. Safety isn't just about avoiding fines. It's a quality management tool.
The performance metric.
100%. And to make sure that foundation is solid, they're not just making this up in a vacuum. They explicitly reference it against these high bar external systems.
Like what?
Well, we see references to the BOCW Act and rules,
which is the Building and Other Construction Workers Act, right? So a major legal framework.
a huge legal framework for construction safety, yeah.
Cool.
And they also tie it to the ISO 4501 standard, the 2018 version.
The international one.
The International Standard for Occupational Health and Safety. So this isn't some, homegrown, wishy-washy policy. It's grounded in really strict legal and industry best practices from day one.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the standard immediately seems to shift the power dynamic a bit.
How so?
It puts the onus squarely on management. It's their job to create an environment where employees feel secure enough to actually speak up.
To report things.
Right. The whole goal is to encourage people to report hazards, near misses, before they turn into incident statistics on a report somewhere.
And that's why the role mapping is so critical. This standard, it isn't just a memo for the EHS department. It defines responsibilities from the very top all the way down and from the bottom up.
Okay, let's start with the sort of central coordinator, the project EHS representative.
The logistical hub.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They prepare the annual calendar for EHS Day celebrations, things like World Environment Day, National Safety Day.
And they set up the communication channels.
The critical ones.
Yeah.
The monthly communications, incident communications, and that routine delivery system, the TBT.
And the TBT, the toolbox talk, that's so essential to understand here.
Right.
For anyone who's not familiar, just imagine a quick 10, maybe 15-minute meeting right on the site.
Before the shift starts.
Exactly, before the shift starts. And it's focused specifically on the day's tasks, the day's hazards. It's the actual mechanism that makes sure policy from an office actually reaches the front line every single day.
Now, contrast that logistical role with the leadership one, the project manager or the project director.
Big difference.
Totally. They have to lead the engagement activities, provide the resources. They are specifically required to create platforms like safety competitions or EHS Innovation Awards.
So they're not just signing off on forms.
No, they're mandated to be active sponsors. And crucially, they have to be the ones providing the accolades, the recognition to the winners.
And this is where the standard defines the voice of the employee. So all employees, they're required to actively participate in TBTs, in training, in reporting incidents. But the real cultural piece, the mechanism, is the requirement for them to share their thoughts and their innovative ideas.
To improve EHS performance.
To improve EHS performance, they're being treated as, experts in their own work.
I wonder, though, does just defining a requirement to share innovative ideas actually generate real innovation?
Mm.
Or does it just, create a flood of low-value suggestions people feel they have to make?
Well, that's where the next sections come in,
Yeah.
because the standard has to formalize the process to filter all that, and more importantly, to reward the high-value input. We'll see that in the award criteria.
Okay.
But just strategically, forcing management to ask for ideas ensures that the EHS rep isn't the only person thinking about safety. It decentralizes the brain power.
So let's look at these culture-building campaigns then. The standard doesn't just, suggest they hold a few events.
Mm.
It mandates a minimum set of these awareness drives every single year.
You keep it visible.
To keep it constantly visible.
Yeah, and they require 4 minimum: National Road Safety Week, National Safety Day, Fire Safety Day, and World Environment Day. And these aren't just like a poster on a bulletin board.
No.
These are celebrations, actual events focused on getting people aware and involved.
And the detail that really stands out to me here is the financial one. It says the expenses for these celebrations are explicitly borne by the project as per their own plan. This feels crucial because it forces the project budget itself to internalize the cost of EHS culture. It stops it from being, shunted off to some distant corporate budget that the project leaders don't really care about.
It makes EHS a real line item, a deliverable for the project.
Exactly.
And how are people made aware of all this, of the standard itself? Well, through those TBTs we mentioned.
And the SOTs.
And during conversations held during SOTs, safety observation tours.
Right. SOTs are another key mechanism. So you can picture the project director or the EHS professional literally walking the construction site.
Actively observing.
Actively observing work being done, identifying safe or unsafe behaviors, and having those real-time conversations. And the standard says that during these on-site, in-the-field talks, the principles of this engagement standard have to be constantly reinforced.
It makes sure the policy is a constant presence, not just something gathering dust on a desk.
Okay, here is where it gets, for me, really interesting. The structured incentive system. It's all designed to promote this positive safety culture. EMPG formally recognizes a best safety employee in 2 very distinct and highly differentiated categories: staff and worker.
And the difference in the criteria, the prize money, the frequency, it says so much about how this organization views the different types of contribution. Strategic contribution versus operational compliance.
Let's dive into the staff recognition first. This is for the best EHS staff of the quarter, so it's quarterly.
It's less frequent.
And it's a pretty substantial prize, RS2000, for 1 winner per project site. This is aimed at the white-collar staff, right? Engineers, supervisors, people managing the systems.
And the nomination comes from site engineers, but the evaluation is high level. It involves the EHS professionals, various managers, all the way up to the project director. But just look at the criteria.
Yeah.
It's scored out of 50 across 5 categories, and the focus is clearly on analytical and strategic work.
Right. They're scored on their past EHS performance, so reporting hazards. But the big weight, the really heavy score, is on their contribution in developing HIRA and LMRA.
Which is vital.
We have to pause and define these because they are sort of the intellectual pillars of safety management.
Absolutely. So HIRA is hazard identification and risk assessment. That's the systematic, long-term process of mapping out every single potential risk on a site.
Before work even starts.
Way before. It's all strategic planning.
In LMRA.
Last-minute risk assessment. That's the cognitive check you do right before you start a task. Stop, think, assess, proceed.
So by weighting their score so heavily on contributing to developing HIRA and LMRA, the organization is rewarding strategic, planning, intellectual input into safety.
Exactly. They are rewarding the staff member who finds a systemic flaw in the planning document, not just the one who remembered to wear a helmet that day. They value proactive system design.
And that makes a quarterly frequency make sense. It takes time for those kinds of contributions to be seen and measured. But let me challenge this a bit. RS2000 is a decent bonus, but if you only focus on analytical skills for staff, don't you risk overlooking the critical role supervisors have in managing daily worker behavior?
That's precisely why the second category exists, and it's structured so differently. The worker recognition, it targets operational behavior, and it's much more frequent, more localized. This one is for the best EHS worker for the month.
Right, so this award is monthly. The prize is lower, RS500, but it goes to 3 winners per project site.
So the value is lower, but the frequency is way higher.
Yeah.
The opportunities for recognition are constant.
And the criteria are totally different. They reflect that frontline reality. It's scored out of 4 categories. And the focus is direct, It's tactical. You've got safe behavior demonstration, SOP compliance,
Following the rules, basically.
following the rules.
Yeah.
Then, reporting of incident unsafe situations, involvement in EHS training, and critically, PPE compliance.
Personal protective equipment. Are you wearing your gear correctly?
So we have this really clear split. The staff award rewards deep thinking, risk mapping. It's strategic, systemic, quarterly.
And the worker award rewards immediate, observable, correct execution. It's tactical, behavioral, and monthly.
It seems to mitigate that concern you raised about us versus them, because the criteria are tailored to what the job actually is.
Exactly. A worker is judged on their strict adherence to procedure and, their immediate safety demonstration. The staff member is judged on their ability to analyze and write those procedures in the first place.
Both are vital.
Both are seen as vital, just weighted differently.
The system mechanics seem pretty robust, too. The project manager or director has the final say.
So leadership ownership is maintained.
Right. And once they're selected, the winners and their photos are displayed on the EHS information board, the bulletin board.
Which makes the recognition public. It amplifies the positive behavior, sets a benchmark for everybody else.
And it's interesting to note the funding, too. The mandated awards, so the 3 workers and 1 staff member, that's charged to the corporate cost center.
So it's non-negotiable. It's guaranteed.
Guaranteed. But the document also empowers the sites. It says projects can give additional awards.
As long as they pay for it.
As long as the cost is borne by that specific project, which allows local leaders to, maybe increase engagement during a really tough phase of construction without having to go ask corporate for more money.
The standard is clearly not designed to just be a static document that sits on a shelf.
No, it's a living management system. And Section 4 really confirms that with a very rigorous monitoring and review structure.
And what's fascinating here is what they actually choose to measure. The KPIs, the key performance indicators, they're reviewed monthly.
By who?
By the project directors, the managers, and the regional delivery heads. So high-level oversight.
And they're not just looking at accident rates, lost time incidents, which are lagging indicators. The KPI they specifically track is compliance to employee engagement activities.
And in that is the strategic difference. They are measuring the activity, the number of SOT conversations, the quality of TBT attendance, the number of hazards reported.
Adherence to the campaign schedule.
All of it. Because they believe that if the engagement process is followed rigorously, the outcome you want, fewer accidents, will just inevitably follow. They're measuring a leading indicator for success.
That feels so much more proactive than just counting bodies at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It forces management to focus on the behaviors that prevent incidents, not just react to them.
On top of that, the audit requirements are strict. The champions, the leaders responsible for this whole thing, they have to evaluate its effectiveness every quarter.
Every quarter.
And they have to run a full-on self-assessment of compliance once a year. It guarantees that high-level review is ongoing.
And the standard itself has a shelf life. It has to be reviewed and revised at a minimum of every 3 years.
Right.
And any deviation, even a minor one on a single project, it requires dual sign-off from the sponsor and the corporate EHS head.
Which maintains that central control over the culture they're trying so hard to embed.
So to sum this all up, what we've seen is how EMPG has moved way beyond just mandatory paperwork. They've created this comprehensive, measurable, and highly incentivized system to really embed a safety culture.
They've shifted EHS from, like you said, a necessary evil into a shared responsibility, a recognized responsibility across the whole organization.
And it's all driven by that very pragmatic goal of just reducing incidents.
Which I think raises a really important question for you to take away from all this. We saw a clear strategy where management rewards both the intellectual contribution to safety.
The HIRA and LMRA development by the staff.
Right. And they also reward the operational compliance, the SOP and PPE adherence by the workers. This formal structure, it clearly recognizes that safety requires 2 very distinct parallel efforts.
Precisely. And so we have to ask you, does this level of formalization, where your compliance earns you a cash award, public recognition, and ties into your performance metrics, does that fundamentally change long-term safety behavior? Does it build a real intrinsic commitment? Or does the reward system itself become the objective, where employees are only reporting hazards or following rules in the pursuit of that public photo on the board or that RS 500 monthly prize? It's something to mull over the next time you encounter a safety policy out in the wild.